Welcome. This is Sharon Huntsman. I am the director of the UC Davis Executive Leadership Program, and I'm super excited to welcome you to this information session, this live session, to learn more about this executive leadership program that we have going. It's one of the best ways to grow yourself into a people leader, and I'm joined today by some folks who can really help you understand this program. So I'm joined by Dr. Paul Porter, who you'll be hearing from in a little bit. He's one of our instructors and coaches in the program. And we also have one of our alumni, Andy Naharis, who is someone who completed the program last fall. He'll share his perspective on the program as well. And I'm also joined by my colleague, Bridget Zaragoza, who is the master of all of the controls and the details here. And what we really want you to do is throughout this program, and we expect to go for about a half hour, 40 minutes, we want you to be raising questions. There's a chat window that you can just type in a question that you have. We've got everybody muted just because we have quite a few people on today. But we'd like you to raise a question as we go throughout, and we'll try to answer those questions as we go through, but we'll also save some time at the end. Because that's the real purpose of this, to go beyond the brochure to really answer your questions about what this program really entails. So with that, I want to get started with just a fun poll. When you think about yourself as a leader and someone who's interested in developing your leadership capability, we're curious, what is your most important leadership development priority? What is it that you are most interested in growing your capability around? Is it motivating and engaging people? That's a huge topic right now. Engagement is something that so many organizations are looking at. Or is it innovation? Are you trying to get better ways of doing things, better thinking throughout the organization so that you can take advantage of innovation? Are you trying to step up your influence? Are there things that you want to see happening in the organization and you really need to step up your influence in order to make those things happen? Or is it change? Almost every organization is going through change on so many different levels, and so often a leadership challenge can be just helping the organization to adapt to change or to be the one driving a change. And then finally, aligning people to the vision. Alignment and making sure that everyone is rowing in the same direction is a key leadership capability, and that's often something that we hear. So of those five, which is the top priority for you? It looks like right now we've got 80% at motivating and engaging. Okay, so let's go ahead and wrap up that poll so everyone can see those results. Yeah, lots of folks saying motivating and engaging people to excel. All right. Well, that's terrific. That gives us a little sense that motivation and engagement is key, and also innovation is top of mind for folks. So as we think about leadership development, I just first want to share with you how does this program define leadership? There are so many different books out there. You can build a whole library around different ways of thinking about leadership. And we really use this two-part definition. The first aspect of leadership is being a guide to the organization's future. We expect leaders to have a vision, to have a sense of where it is that the organization needs to head in order to be successful. And then we also expect that leaders are going to be the kind of people who others would willingly follow, meaning they're not following you just because of your title or your power. They are following you because you are trustworthy and you are aligned with the purpose of the organization and are speaking to the purpose of the organization in a way that engages them. So that's the definition that we use for when we think about leadership. And fundamentally, we believe that leaders are grown, not born. That leadership is a set of skills that we learn to practice. And when we become leaders, and we can advance our level of capability with leadership behaviors over time. And this program is really designed to help you do that. There are three main components to the program that are foundational for you to understand. The first thing is that there are 8 sessions in the program, and these are highly interactive learning sessions. Each topic is a key leadership topic, whether it's leading change or leadership communication or innovation. Each topic is taught by an expert in that field who has deep knowledge and deep experience in leadership in that area. And they're willing to share with you what they have learned, and from not only the experiences they have had, but really the mistakes that they've made and how they've been able to be successful in that area. And these are not heavy lecture kinds of sessions. These are highly engaging and participatory sessions. So a lot of what happens is you get to learn from your peers as you engage on a topic, which is one of the really fantastic aspects of in-person learning. And then secondly, we have a 360-degree feedback tool as part of this program. So before the program even starts, we get you onboarded, and we help you and support you in identifying who you want to get feedback from and implement that. And that gives you a sense of how people perceive you as a leader. What are people really relying on you for as a leader that they really value about how you're leading, and what do they want to see you do more of or less of as a leader in order to help them be successful. And then finally, we have you work with a coach. So you work with a coach first on understanding your 360 feedback, and then also again in the program just to be able to have a thought partner to help you identify what other enhancements you want to really make and try and learn from in your leadership. So now I want to hand it over to Dr. Paul Porter, who is one of our instructors and one of our coaches in the program, so that he can share with you what he does in his class. You can get kind of a feel for what a day in the program is like. Paul, tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what you do in your class.
Of course. Yeah. Thank you, Sharon. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Great. My background is I've been a teacher and a counselor and a school principal, a director of personnel, special ed director, and then I was also a school superintendent for about 17 years. I've been a professor at the university for 15 years. But now I do training and teaching, coaching. I'm very interested in strengths and in communication and leadership. So it's fun to be in this program. I've been with it for quite a while now and worked with Sharon and the rest of the group. So that's my background. And I teach the first class in the program, which is called The Leader as Communicator. And it's no coincidence that we do that as the first class, because we kind of believe that the key to good leadership is being able to communicate in so many different ways. There are a lot of very bright leaders out there, but unless you can communicate and get your vision across to people, then it really doesn't help much. So my class has to do with communication, kind of 2 topics, communication and leadership styles. So we talk about the importance of communication. We draw a little bit on some of the work of Susan Scott in having fierce conversations. So how do you have, one of the things I say in the class is that leadership is a conversation. It's this ongoing series of interactions, and unless you're really skilled and very adept at engaging your people and having meaningful conversations every day, then you're probably not a great leader. So it's about how do you do that? And then another big part of this class is what do you do with leadership style? As Sharon was saying before, there are a lot of books on leadership that tell you how to be a good leader, but we're going to explore what kind of leadership style works best with which people in which situations. So we hope to have you coming out of there really thinking about what's the highest probability leadership match style that will work with different people in different situations. So we look at leadership styles, we look at your leadership style, the class, the format of the class, again, as Sharon was saying, is some presentation, a lot of discussion. You do some assessments of yourself, discussing with your colleagues. One of the real strengths of the program is your cohort and what you get from your people. people. So we have a lot of opportunities to discuss the material presented, lots of opportunities to look at yourself and assess yourself. So that's kind of what that first class looks like, a lot on communication, a lot on leadership style.
Thank you, Paul. And now I think we've got you queued up to do sort of a fun quiz so people can kind of experience some of the some of the topics that you.
Yep.
You want to walk people through?
I will. So I'm going to give you it's a little true false test here to get you, mainly to get you thinking. We don't mean to put you on the spot. Question number 1. So just kind of answer these to yourself, and then we do the answers at the end, I think, Sharon, don't we?
Right, we do. Yeah.
Yeah. So the first question for you to ponder is, the best leaders are the ones who communicate using precisely the right words. Do you think that is true or false? Is that the key to leadership? Question 2. The main function of coaching is to carefully monitor others that you are coaching and make sure they don't make errors. Is that true or false? All right. Question 3. Change occurs most often when people are presented with clear and accurate factual information. True or false? Question 4. The best leaders treat everyone the same and are well-rounded themselves. What do you think? True or false? And our last question, according to Daniel Goldman, 80 to 85% of what distinguishes a good leader from a great leader is their cognitive ability. So play with each of those, true or false.
All right, I'm going to start.
All right, so let's go over the answers.
Showing the answers.
All right, here are the answers. Number 1, best leaders are the ones who communicate using precise right words. False. Research from many different sources indicates that 80 to 93% of communication by leaders or anyone is in other than the words that we use. It has to do with nonverbals, attending, tone, lots of things like that. Question 2. The main function of coaching is to carefully monitor others you are coaching and make sure they don't make errors. Again, false. One of the keys to effective coaching is helping others reflect on their own effectiveness by asking powerful questions. So in this series, we're going to teach you, how do you ask powerful questions? How do you be less directive and slightly more facilitative? Question 3. Change occurs most often when people are presented with clear and accurate factual information. Well, clear and factual information is important, so this is partially true, but change must appeal to people's values and beliefs, sense of urgencies, ownership. We're going to present you with some change models so that you can understand more than information what really changes organizations, cultures, and people. Question 4. Best leaders treat everyone the same and are well-rounded. That certainly sounds reasonable, but false. Just to kind of shake you up a little bit here, good leaders treat each person a bit differently. You know, it's kind of, they treat people like the old notion that you need to treat people like you would like to be treated, we replace that with, you need to understand how they themselves want to be treated, not how you want to be treated. And well-roundedness is an interesting concept we'll explore a bit in our courses. The best leaders aren't necessarily well-rounded. They have teams that are well-rounded. So great leaders realize where their strengths are, play on those, and then hire great people to supplement their areas where they're not particularly great in. And the last question, according to Goldman, 85% of what distinguishes a good leader from a great leader is cognitive ability, i.e. how smart you are. Nope, according to Goldman, who wrote Emotional Intelligence, which you will learn about in this program, the most important quality of in a leader is not cognitive intelligence, but emotional intelligence. That's the key. So I hope this stimulated your thinking and shook you up a little bit. So
yeah, terrific. Thank you, Paul. And Paul's going to stay with us. So if you have questions for Dr. Paul Porter, feel free to cue some up. Bridget, do we have any questions so far? Okay. Y'all are mulling out there, I know. So
I can hear them mulling.
I can hear them mulling. So feel free to start posing some questions for us. So now I'm going to go through the session that I lead and the sessions, the rest of them as well. So you have a bit of a flavor of the content that we cover. So Dr. Porter does the first night. I do the second day of the program, which is leadership practices to increase effectiveness. And this is the program where we really go through the 360 feedback. So everyone receives their 360 feedback. We go through what the instrument, the background on the instrument, and so that you can really interpret your feedback. And then we do a dive into each of the 5 practices of exemplary leaders that are the basis for this instrument, so that you have a pretty great understanding by the time you leave of how you can increase some of your behaviors. And in terms of frequency, that's what this 360 measures. How frequently are we seeing someone inspire a shared vision? How frequently are we seeing someone enabling others to act and be effective? So we'll cover each of those 5 practices. I will tell you that we do the most work on inspiring a shared vision. And that's quite intentional, because most people who are senior managers are, I would say, captured by day-to-day activity in a way that doesn't give them enough time to really think about the future of their part of the organization. And so we really create the space in this day for you to really think about and craft a vision for you, the part of the organization that you directly influence and lead. So you leave this session not only with your 360, but with a draft vision. Then on the next day, we have Dr. Mitchell Adler, who is an expert in emotional intelligence in the workplace. He's an author on the topic, and he really helps us to understand the different components of emotional intelligence, and really sort of models emotional intelligence in the whole interaction of how he shows up in a very vulnerable and very forthright way, and really encourages everyone through the activities that he engages in to explore how we master our own emotions, so that we can create a positive organizational culture, with how we're managing our own emotional intelligence as leaders. And I think one of the wonderful things about Mitchell Adler that he always emphasizes is the importance of self-care. That leaders who take care of themselves have more to give others. And I think that's really an important message for leaders to get. So I love that about Mitchell Adler. Then our next session is with Christine Falk, and she is a really interesting woman who leads innovation at Vision Services Plan. She calls herself a change enabler, and so she is going to help leaders bring an innovative lens to the work that they do. So she's going to help you think about problems differently. She encourages you to explore different ways of breaking down issues and opportunities, and sort of stimulating that a mindset shift to seeing more and better kinds of opportunities within the organization, and then how to support those as a leader. Oftentimes, organizations don't lack for good ideas. There are lots of people around the organization who have thoughts about how we could be doing things better, but those ideas rarely make the light of day. They aren't supported. They run up against the challenge of how do we manage the day-to-day and do something new and innovative. And so Christine brings both the lens of, how do you think differently about problems in order to encourage innovation, and then what is your role as a leader in supporting innovative thinking and bringing innovative ideas to action. Then we have Michelle Payne, who is an amazing executive coach. She's one of the coaches in the program, and she also directs our coaching program here at UC Davis Extension. And what she does is she really focuses on building the skills that coaches use in order so that you as a leader are able to coach your people. And what Michelle really advocates is that you take on a coaching approach so that you are creating better critical thinkers, that you're asking questions, that you are helping the people who report to you in a coaching approach, so that you're building their capability, so that ultimately over time, people are not bringing you problems as much, and it helps with your overload really as a leader. You are actually helping them to think through how to bring all of their creativity and resources to bear on their challenges. Then Diane Davidson, who has decades of experience in leading change in different organizations, she leads a session on the 6 different components to leading change in an organization. And this is a very interactive session where participants bring a change that they want to work on, and Diane walks the whole group through the 6 different aspects of leading change that you really need to attend to as a leader. And you walk out of that session with an action plan, which is just a fantastic bonus. And oops, she references the work of John Cotter at Harvard, who's famously identified the reasons that most change efforts fail. So, and then finally, we have Elizabeth Doty, who is a management consultant, a leadership consultant, and she leads a session on values, commitments, and organizational momentum. And what Elizabeth will do is help you diagnose, where is your team at today? Are they really performing well? Are they high performing? And it's really about taking them to the next level as a leader? Or are there sort of pockets of underperformance and some tentativeness in the team? And if they're at that place, how do you move them up a notch? Or a lot of this happens to a lot of people going through our program. They might be taking over a team that was dysfunctional and not performing. And if that's what the diagnosis is, that's where they're at, how do you turn that around and get them into a more positive momentum? And ultimately what Elizabeth teaches is how to ask for the right kind of commitment from people. And that sounds like a simple thing. And what's true is that oftentimes we aren't really clear enough when we're trying to ask for change about what the behavior is or what the specific outcome is that we need people to shift to in order for the organization to be successful. And so this is a really great opportunity as we wrap up the program to get really clear about the kind of commitment that you want to ask for from others as a leader. And we do have another session on where we work on a case study, and that's an opportunity for us to bring back all of the learning that has happened over the course of the program into applying that to a case study. So now I want to invite Andy in to share his perspective. Andy was a learner in our program last fall. Andy, it's great to have you back.
Hi, Sharon. It's great to be here. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you fantastically. I would love it if you can share with folks who are joining us. I think we have about 15 people now who are joining this, and they're trying to decide if this program is right for them. So why don't you share what it was that you were really looking for when you chose the UC Davis Executive Leadership Program?
Sure. So at the time, I was a branch chief within the federal government, and I was really at this stage of my career where I wanted to move from the mid-level management to the executive level. And when I found the opportunity to apply for the UC Davis program, it just felt like it was a great fit because it really emphasized building key skills and becoming a leader with a really comprehensive approach. I was able to go through a process in my agency to apply for basically for the ability to get funding to go through a program, which is a really nice perk that I had. And I was successful in that, and then was able to go through and apply through UC Davis. And for me, it was really, I was kind of at a point where I'd been doing the work as a branch chief for a number of years and just really felt that I was taking on too much of the work myself. So I had a number of staff and very complex programs with lots of funding and lots of responsibilities, but I noticed that I was still trying to do everything myself. And it just became overwhelming at times to try to handle many complexities and many challenges that came up on a day-to-day basis. and I wasn't really taking the time to do enough of the strategic thinking and visioning that I know that the people that worked for me were looking for me to do. So I felt that I needed to do something to change and really jumpstart that visioning process.
Terrific, thank you. Yeah. So, that was where you were at when you were applying for the program. And then, now looking back on it, what aspects of it were most valuable for you?
Oh, I think that the overall part of the course, because it was multiple sessions, I found to be really valuable. So one thing that I really appreciated was that there was space in between the courses. So I was able to have participate in a session on Thursday, Friday, then go back to my job and apply what I was learning, and then be able to look forward to coming back again. So that was something that I really appreciated. It really stretched out the learning. It made it really practical and applied. I was also able to work with my own directors and work with my team to help share with them what I was learning, and they were able to share the feedback with me, and it just made it a really iterative process. But I think for me, some of the key things that I really learned about were how to be a much better listener. I felt that over time, I tended to listen to respond rather than just to listen to understand. I really developed a lot of new skills to really be present and focus on active listening. I also really learned how to more appropriately help others solve their own problems. So one thing that I tended to do, like I said, I like to, sometimes I would get too involved in some of the weeds. And when people came to me with problems and challenges, I would sometimes try to do their work for them and try to solve problems. So I really learned about my job is really to be more of a coach and help ask the right questions to inspire others to come up with their own solutions. And I really saw so much more growth over time. The other thing that was really key for me was being able to be more comfortable in sharing direct feedback. So I tended to really shy from conflict, and when there were problems that were going on among my direct reports and teams, I sometimes wouldn't want to rock the boat. And I really learned how to provide very direct feedback. And it's something that has really made an incredible difference in my working relationships and my ability to really help coach and empower others and just watch everyone around me to succeed. So, I grew so much over time throughout the whole program. And especially growth from the instructors, but also growth from my classmates. So others from government and the private sector, nonprofits, and I realized that we all had many of the exact same problems. And if I had experienced a challenge, it was likely that someone else in the course had that exact same challenge. And we were able to brainstorm solutions together in a way that I felt there was no judgment. It wasn't the same way where it might be more difficult within your own work environment to tackle some issues. It was nice to just have some objective outside perspective. So I really grew a lot as a leader, as a communicator, and as a visionary through the program.
Yeah, I think you make such an important point about the ability to sort of talk freely and openly with leaders who are, from different walks of life, but all have some similar, people-related challenges. I think that's a really important point. I wanted to also just ask you, because there may be some folks who are wondering about, what it's like to do a 360. It's understandably, sometimes that feels a little scary or unnerving, the idea of getting, feedback from folks. Can you share a little bit about, what was it like for you to get 360 feedback?
Oh, I found it really helpful and eye-opening. The feedback itself was really positive and meaningful. There weren't really any big surprises that I had, but there were some key areas that I was able to learn more about myself in ways that issues that I might have really thought of, but I might have, maybe it was unconsciously not paying attention to. So it really kind of brought some of those issues to the surface. So I really loved it. It really helped me to be a better leader, a better listener. And a lot of the feedback that I learned, I was able to kind of pick and choose what I was able to focus on. And then also make some immediate changes. And I talked with my team about it too. That was one thing that was important. So I didn't come back and just start doing things differently. I talked with everyone about it. So I had a branch meeting to talk about this is what I learned. And I'm thinking of doing some things differently and want to get your input on it. And it just made it really a much better experience for both me as a leader and for the people that work for me.
Yeah, yeah. It was just such a great example of how to do it right, Andy. Thank you. That's terrific. All right. Well, I know that there may be some folks who are on the line who've got a question for you. So if you can hang around for a little bit, I'm just going to handle a few more details of nuts and bolts about the program. You were mentioning the format, Andy, so I'll explain a little bit more about the format, and then we'll open it up for Q&A again. And folks, feel free to start typing those in if you've got questions, and for me or for Andy or for Paul, and we'll get those taken care of. All right, so let's see. All right, so the format, Andy mentioned the format. So in the fall, our format is Thursday afternoon and evening, and then Friday, all day Friday. And it's 4 back-to-back sessions, 4 Thursday, Friday sessions, excuse me. So our fall program has, 1 week on where we're there Thursday, Friday, and then a week off, and then we come back, and the following week we're there Thursday, Friday. And so, as Andy said, what that does is it carves out some time for really busy leaders. You're only missing a day and a half of work, in every sort of 2-week period. And that gives you some time to apply what it is you're learning in between sessions. So unlike programs where you fly away to a university and you're in residence for 8 solid days, and there's only so much that you can retain and then try to apply after that intensive an experience. This one is really designed so that you can be away, learn something, and then go back and apply it, and then come back to class and talk about how it's working or not working and what you're learning. And of course, we have the coaching in between these sessions as well to support you in your growth. A couple more things on nuts and bolts. The tuition is $5,950 for the whole session, and that includes all of the learning, the coaching, the 360 assessment. We have 4 dinners together, so it includes all of that. So it's a pretty robust program at a really great price. And if you enroll by August 30th, there is an early enrollment discount, which is a really nice thing. Now the enrollment deadline is September 17th, which is really important. We can't really let people in after that date because you need to have time to do the 360 before the program actually starts in October. And this is a program that has been pretty popular, and so we've actually added a second session, so we've added this fall session, but it does fill, so we really encourage, if you're thinking that this is the year for you, that when you really want to invest in yourself, to go ahead and get your application in to save your spot, because it does tend to fill up. So with that, let's see, are there any, I think someone had a question on whether or not this was being recorded, because they have a colleague who wants to investigate the program, and it is. This is going to be recorded, and then we'll post it on our website for the executive program. Any other questions? Bridget, do you have any?
Yes, there's one question. How important is it to lead by example?
Oh, that's such a great question. Paul, Andy, do either of you guys want to hop in on that? Did we lose Paul and Andy?
I'm still here. This is Andy.
Oh, Andy, how important do you think it is to lead by example?
Oh, I think it's incredibly important. I think that as a leader, everyone is always watching and observing my own behavior. So if I'm engaged or present in a meeting, others will too. If I'm looking at my phone, others will too. So I think that I really think it is very important. So the way that I speak, the way that I react, I really try to model appropriate behaviors for others. So I think it's critically important. So I want to make sure that my actions always reflect my values and words. Yeah.
And boy, the leader who models, what it is that they expect, they're modeling it, and it's so much more powerful when there's alignment between what the leader espouses and how the leader behaves. And boy, when there's not alignment there, when people say one thing and then do another, it's really hard for leaders to get their credibility back, I think, in that kind of a situation. I don't know, did we lose Paul? Okay, so Paul may be trying to dial back in, and if he wants to, try to answer as well, we'll circle back to Paul. Other questions?
Do these sessions have role playing or activities, or are the sessions lectures and PowerPoints only?
That's a great question. They definitely have activities. Role playing is not always something that people love to do, and so I want to be clear that there's always some kind of application and there are some exercises. So what Andy mentioned, that he's become a better listener. So there's some activities that we do in the session on coaching around, how deeply are we listening to one another when we're listening, to really flex that skill. And so that's the kind of activity that you can expect in the program. So it's pretty interactive, pretty engaging.
Next question, how much experience do you recommend we have before applying?
So typically the people who are in this program are managers. So they've got, they're either leading a team or they're leading a function within an organization, and they're looking at, in the next year or in the next couple of years, stepping up to an even larger role. And so they're wanting to think about what does leadership look like at that next level. And so, we have had people who are in the program who are fairly young, in their 30s, who are, have been stepping up. And we've got people who are more toward the end of their career, but they want to make sure that they're leaving a solid legacy in their role. So we've got all different levels of experience in terms of tenure in the workforce. But I do think that, having a managerial level of responsibility where you've got programs or, products and people that you are responsible for leading, where it makes sense to do a program like this and to be amongst peers who are similarly facing those kinds of challenges. All right. Any other questions?
There is one more question. Do participants receive a completion certificate for the leadership program?
Yes, actually one of my favorite parts of the program, at the very end of the program, we have a pretty informal but really engaging graduation where you receive, it's a framed certificate from the executive program, and people share what have been their biggest learning or takeaway from the program. And it's a great way for everyone to reinforce the aha moments that they have had in the program, and really so wonderful to see how much people have really stepped up throughout the course of the program. All right. What other questions do you all have? Questions about the format or about the application? It's a pretty simple application for this program. It's on our website, and we'll provide the link, and I think we're going to send that link out in the chat box so that you all have.
Sharon, can you hear me?
Yeah, Paul.
Oh, okay. I must have cut out for a while. Sorry. Other
yeah.
questions?
Yes. Yeah, we lost you for a moment.
Yeah. I would just add, people believe what you do, not what you say. You're asking about leaders, and also a word about what we do. Yeah, we don't really do, I don't believe in a lot of role playing. I think there's enough real problems out there that we can share, real examples and real issues, that we can use those more than having to make up role playing. So that would be my 2 cents worth to add there, Sharon. Thank you.
Yeah, good. Yeah, that just reinforces the point, Paul. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Other questions? I'll give people a couple more minutes. I will say that one of the things that, another question? Mm-hmm. Yeah, what do we have?
What if I was offered a position matching my job skills and training, but I ruined it? I passed the interview and had a start date, but I was scared and ruined the opportunity by not fully committing myself. I was unsure of myself. What advice can you give me?
It's a great coaching opportunity, is sort of my thought about that. I mean, that's my general framework on a question like that is that, fears are stories that we tell ourselves. And those are great opportunities for coaching to really kind of dive into what's the nature of the fear, and what are some other ways of possibly thinking about that, and to really help you feel resourceful and capable as you think about what you want to take on next as a leader. Paul, what are your thoughts? Did we lose Paul? Oh, there you go.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay. That question kind of reminds me a little bit about something we do a little bit in emotional intelligence.
Oh, we're losing you, Paul. You just cut out.
Wow. That's with belief systems. Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you. Yes.
Yeah, we talk about belief systems. Belief systems are messages you just assume you carry around with that you're really not aware of, and it causes you to, how you think about things, how you evaluate situations, is related a lot to the belief systems that we have. So in emotional intelligence and in communication, we talk a little bit about how do you help yourself identify what those assumptions are, and how do you work with other people, because those belief systems can either be very empowering or they can be limiting at times. So that might be a great coaching topic to explore that a little bit in.
Yeah. Yeah, I really appreciate the courage that it takes to ask that question, by the way.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. That person will do well in the program.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which reminds me, Sharon, you kind of get out of the program what you put in. You can get as much extra help if you want articles, if you want things to read, if you want time with an instructor to chat a little bit. You can get out of this program kind of what you want to get out of it.
Yes, I will say that in the coaching sessions, quite often, people do ask their coaches, like, what resources do you have about a topic, like whether it's delegation or having difficult conversations, or inspiring a shared vision, which is one of the things that we work on a lot in the class. That those are often topics that get carried over into the coaching sessions. All right. Well, I don't think we have any more questions, so we'll wrap this up for now, but know that Bridget and I are both available for any questions. If we get off this webinar and another question pops up, we're really happy to get back to you and have another conversation, or get back to you by email. And Bridget, how can they get the link for the to the application? Do we put it into the chat?
I don't have it. I will email it to everyone who participated today.
Oh, terrific. Okay, terrific. So we will send you all the direct link to the application. The application is really simple, and we approve them really quickly. We do like within a day. So thank you all for joining us. Thank you to Andy and to Paul for being a part of this to help people understand whether or not this is the right program for them. And have a terrific evening.